Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast for the week ahead. And we've got a lot more high pressure in the forecast. Not as much wet weather coming through or as much of the windy stuff, but we are still seeing some wintry weather and the odd burst of wind still coming through, westerly driven, spring-like, and you can probably guess where that is. It's in the southeast corner. So as we take a look at the satellite map, the lightning map today, the energy is in the southeast again. Another southerly coming through from South Australia to Victoria and into Tasmania with the temperatures down and more of that polar airflow coming through. I'm sorry to say, Tasmania, but you've had a run of cold air for a long time now. It's been several weeks. Not every year is like this. Sometimes we have springs of warm weather and changes to the cold. But as we went to the end of winter and the start of spring this year, we're seeing a lot of cold weather stuck around Tasmania, and that doesn't really change this week, despite the big high on its way through. Not a lot of thunderstorm activity. We do see a few here around Victoria near Melbourne, a few more up around Queensland, and we've got a little bit of energy up here in the tropics around Darwin and also around the Kimberley. We've got some thunderstorms and a few other ones, just isolated ones further down into the Northern Territory. So let's have a look at what is going on, and well, it's not hard to miss the main feature. It is this gigantic high pressure zone that is moving in, and it is big because it's pushing away pretty much everything else that is bringing weather to Australia. So we've got a little bit of low pressure around the tropics up here in the darker shading, so that's why we are getting those showers and thunderstorms hanging around. But as this big high moves eastwards, it encourages the southerly or southwesterly winds that you've got. That's the reason why your temperatures are down and why we're still seeing showers carrying on. But as the high moves eastwards, it will shut down some of that wet weather. So let's kick off with the Tuesday setup. We'll start with the air boundaries, the tropical air boundary a long way northwards. Darwin is inside it though, so is the very tip of the far north of Queensland. That is where you've got the really tropical weather, but further down into Queensland, it's just the usual stuff off the Coral Sea. Warm, definitely not cold, and you've got showers around and a few thunderstorms as we just saw on the satellite map. Now for pretty much everybody else in the top half of Australia, it is an easterly wind blowing through. It'll be brisk or a little bit gusty at times, especially into the afternoons with the daytime heating, but it's dry. Most of Western Australia, apart from a few showers up around the Kimberley, and they're not very much, all of Western Australia is dry with easterly winds, meaning that the temperatures are up for those of you along the west coast. As the high moves into South Australia, you've still got the southerly wind. It might tilt around a little bit more in the southeast direction, but it's not overly bad. And most of those showers, in fact, all of the showers have cleared away, except for just a couple remaining in the southeast. The blue you see in Victoria, not very much. A couple of showers, maybe a little bit heavier to the east, but really we're not seeing very much at all. But Tasmania still under the westerly driven airflow. Notice the polar line isn't on the map. So that means on Tuesday, your temperatures may go up a degree in Tasmania, but don't get too excited. It's not going to stay that way. Here is 10 o'clock Wednesday morning Eastern time. It's the wind gust map. So the areas in the purple or the darker shading, these are the areas that could be seeing gusts of 90 to 100 kilometers an hour. Now, most of that energy is actually south of Tassie on Wednesday morning, but it will be a windy day here and there, and you may just have a couple of isolated power outages. Windy around Bass Strait, but these are only gusting up to about gale force, which is not too bad unless you're actually on a boat. Let's have a look at Wednesday. So not a great deal of change with the high parked over South Australia, and on the eastern side of that, you've still got the southerly wind. And look who returns here. The polar line comes back in over Bass Strait and Tasmania on Wednesday. The high pressure system kind of responsible for dredging up that colder airflow, and it turns around as a southerly coming in over the A.C.T and around parts of New South Wales. Most of New South Wales has a southerly wind on Wednesday. So that breeze may help actually keep the temperature up a little bit at night time. But if you're in a sheltered area, frosts are possible here and there this week. Now, as you come into Queensland, that southerly fades out and you're back to east to northeasterlies at the top. That's why you've still got a few showers there, but really not a lot going on. A small amount of low pressure in the Northern Territory and the Kimberley doesn't seem to be doing very much. Those easterly winds carry on Wednesday, but not quite as intense. And by Thursday, the high moves further inland over the top of South Australia, but it really covers Western Australia, New South Wales, and a big part of Queensland. You have to go right up to northern parts of Queensland to get out of the high pressure zone where you've got a couple of showers, a little bit of low pressure up around the top end. It's not much though. This is a pretty dry map for Australia this week, but the showers and the unsettled spring pattern, the early spring pattern, remains in the southeast, where you've still got westerly winds or southwesterly winds around Tasmania, the polar line still over you, which means a dusting of snow still possible on the highest parts of the island, and rain or showers over on the west coast with a few thunderstorms. Showers through Bass Strait. Showers continue mostly around coastal parts of Victoria and on the western side of the mountains and the ranges here, with those westerlies building up the showers. Driest weather in the east, but as you come up into New South Wales around the A.C.T, you may still have a couple of showers, just sort of with that west to southwest energy that's moving around. All right, let's go into the weekend now. This is a hard video to try and find things to talk about, but I'll see if I can do my best. On Friday, the next high coming out of the Indian Ocean, pretty much joining forces with the other high that is leaving Queensland and the north and New South Wales and moving out into the Tasman Sea. So if you're around Norfolk Island and Lord Howe Island, you might have a couple of showers, but it's mostly dry because you've got high pressure around you. So the high pressure, the two systems link up, but this next one, before it comes in, does drive in another southerly or a southeasterly. So you'll get a few showers in the southwest and southern parts of Western Australia. I don't think Perth is likely to get a shower, but it's right there on the coastline, so you never quite know. Then you jump over to South Australia. Southerly winds coming through. They're a bit more southwesterly. It's not overly warm. It's not overly cold. It's just sort of in between and mostly dry, with those showers remaining in the southeast. Showers continue around Victoria, but the blue means even at the highest levels, you're only getting 5 millimetres. So there's not a huge amount of rain there. And in Tasmania, still cold on the west coast and at higher elevations. Jump over to the eastern side and northern areas, it's not quite as cold. It's still quite windy. You may be seeing gusts up to gale force. And speaking of gusts to gale force, just keep an eye on the windy weather around New South Wales. This is a westerly driven wind coming over the ranges. And so as we jump here to Friday, about the same time stamp as the last map, the areas in purple along the Great Dividing Range, showing gusts getting up to around 90, 100 kilometres an hour. That's enough to break branches, bring a few isolated power outages. So that is just coming through here on Friday across, again, the mountains, the ranges, New South Wales, the A.C.T, Victoria, and also quite windy around Bass Strait still in the coastal areas of Victoria. You'll be noticing those windy conditions. So into the weekend, windy around Tasmania, the polar line back up again over everyone in Tasmania. So more wintry weather carrying on for you on Saturday. Victoria's on the edge of that with showers, southwesterlies. The high out of the Indian Ocean stretching now into the Great Australian Bight. We may see a few showers and thunderstorms thanks to a bit of convergence where the winds meet together. That is possible around the southwest here. Further to the north, there's more low pressure sinking around the top of Australia. It's not really doing a lot. A few thunderstorms around Darwin, but dry for many other parts. You know, all of Queensland's dry here on Saturday, as is New South Wales for the most part. And into Sunday, dry for a big portion of Australia. We've still got low pressure up here around the top end, the Kimberley, the Pilbara regions, all getting some low pressure in there. That's helping to drop the tropical heat further down towards you. But really, Tasmania, once again, under wintry westerly winds, more west coast rain for you, keeping that weather pattern very unsettled. That is all from me for today. We've got a special update about the Super Typhoon that is coming into Hong Kong. So we've got the latest on that. Please check out our video to be out later today, Monday. Otherwise, I'll see you again tomorrow, Tuesday, for our next Australia Only update.